When you pray with faith, you begin to see the supernatural move in your natural life. You begin to witness the invisible becoming visible. You begin to experience the unexplainable happening before your very eyes. There is a power that comes when your prayer is rooted in confidence. A power that fear cannot produce, that doubt cannot summon, and that hesitation cannot activate. When you approach God with certainty, you invite his presence into your situation. You summon his wisdom to guide your decisions. You release his provision to meet your needs. You call forth his strength to sustain you. Faith-filled, confident prayer is not about your ability. It is about God's ability operating through your willingness to trust. Many people approach prayer as if it is an optional activity, as if it is a last resort when life has failed them. They pray with uncertainty because they have not realized that prayer is the lifeline to divine power. They pray with hesitation because they do not fully understand that confidence in God is the engine that moves heaven. But I tell you, when you pray with boldness, you change everything. When you pray with faith, you shift circumstances. When you pray with authority, you unlock doors that were once closed. Prayer is not a formality. Prayer is your connection to the omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent God. Prayer is not a suggestion. It is a declaration of partnership with the creator of all things. Fear-based prayer is limited because it is self-focused. It worries about outcomes, doubts God's timing, and measures possibilities against personal understanding. Faith-based prayer, on the other hand, is God-focused. It lifts its eyes above the storm, above the problem, above the impossible. Faith-filled prayer says, God, I cannot see the end. I cannot fully understand your plan, but I know you are able, and I trust you to act. That is the prayer that brings results. That is the prayer that moves heaven. That is the prayer that transforms ordinary circumstances into extraordinary testimonies. Confidence in prayer is also a declaration of identity. When you pray with faith, you are declaring that you are a child of God, that you belong to him, and that your voice matters in his kingdom. When you pray with confidence, you are declaring that you have access to the throne of grace, that you are not powerless, and that now your relationship with God is personal, intimate, and powerful. Fear-based prayer says, maybe God will hear me. Faith-based prayer says, I know God hears me, and I know he will act because I am his. There is a difference between uncertainty and certainty, between hesitation and boldness, between timid requests and confident declarations. That difference determines whether your prayer changes your life or simply passes through the air without impact. Faith-filled prayer demands persistence. Confidence in prayer is not passive. It is not enough to speak a few words and walk away. You must continue to stand in faith, to believe, to expect, and to declare God's promises. The enemy will attempt to discourage you, to make you doubt, to whisper lies that your prayers are unheard. But do not listen. Continue to pray with courage, with boldness, and with unwavering confidence. Each prayer that rises from a heart filled with faith is a seed planted in heaven. Each confident declaration is a key that unlocks doors. Each expectation rooted in God's character is a chain that releases divine power. Do not underestimate the authority of your prayers when rooted in confidence. God is not moved by your fear. He is moved by your trust. He is not impressed by your trembling. He is impressed by your boldness. He is not influenced by your uncertainty. He is influenced by your faith. Every confident prayer is a statement to God and to the world that you refuse to accept limitation, that you refuse to bow to fear, and that you refuse to settle for less than what God has promised. Faith-filled prayers challenge impossibilities. Faith-filled prayers overcome obstacles. Faith-filled prayers draw heaven's power into earth's realities. You must understand that praying with confidence does not mean your life will be free from challenges. It does not mean that storms will never come. It does not mean that problems will suddenly disappear. What it does mean is that when challenges arise, when storms rage, when obstacles appear, you are anchored in faith, strengthened by trust, and empowered by God's presence. When you pray with confidence, you do not panic when things go wrong. You stand firm because you know the one who listens to your prayer is greater than any problem you face. When you pray with faith, your prayer is not dictated by circumstances. It dictates circumstances because it aligns with the power of God. Confidence in prayer requires boldness. Boldness is the willingness to ask without hesitation, to declare without apology, to trust without doubt. Bold prayers do not tiptoe, they march. Bold prayers do not whisper, they proclaim. Bold prayers do not wait for permission. They exercise authority. When you pray with confidence, you are not begging, you are declaring. You are not pleading, you are trusting. You are not negotiating, you are activating heaven. Bold, confident prayers carry authority that fear-filled prayers can never produce. They shift situations, transform lives, and release the supernatural. Fear-based prayer often focuses on limitations. It counts obstacles, measures difficulty, and predicts failure. Faith-based prayer focuses on God's ability. It trusts his wisdom, relies on his power, and expects his intervention. Fear-based prayer whispers, I don't know if it will work. Faith-based prayer declares, I know it will work because my God is faithful. Fear-based prayer limits the imagination, while faith-based prayer releases the vision. Fear-based prayer says, what if it doesn't happen? Faith-based prayer says, it will happen because God has promised. There is no neutrality in prayer. Either your words are rooted in fear, which limits God, or rooted in faith, which releases God's power. Praying with confidence requires understanding God's promises. Every promise in the Word of God is alive, relevant, and applicable to your life. Every promise is backed by the authority of heaven. Every promise carries power for provision, healing, protection, guidance, and breakthrough. When you pray with confidence, you pray in alignment with God's promises. You pray knowing that what God has spoken will come to pass. You pray not from doubt, but from expectation. You pray not with hesitation, but with authority. You pray not as one who is uncertain, but as one who is convinced that God's word will never fail. Faith-filled prayer also requires patience. Confidence does not mean instant results. It does not mean that the answer will arrive on your timetable. It means that you trust God's timing is perfect. It means you hold on to belief even when you do not see immediate change. It means you continue to speak your prayers, declare your faith, and expect God's action, knowing that what is delayed is not denied. Patience in prayer is not passive waiting. It is active trust. It is continuing to pray, continuing to believe, and continuing to expect because you know the God who listens is faithful. Every confident prayer releases the supernatural. Every bold declaration aligns heaven with earth. Every expectation rooted in faith activates divine intervention. Do not allow fear to silence your voice. Do not allow hesitation to weaken your words. Do not allow doubt to limit your vision. Speak to God boldly, confidently, and with unwavering trust. Let your prayers be a reflection of your belief that God is able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that you can ask or think. Let your prayers rise with the authority of someone who knows that the God who listens is the God who acts. Let your heart declare, I will not fear, I will not doubt, I will not hesitate, for my God is listening and he will answer. Confidence in prayer also impacts your attitude in your life. When you pray with faith, you begin to live differently. You begin to walk in expectation. You begin to see opportunities instead of obstacles. You begin to respond to challenges with courage instead of fear. Your confidence in prayer becomes the foundation for your confidence in life. Your boldness before God translates into boldness in your decisions. Your trust in heaven fuels your trust on earth. When you pray with faith, you are not just asking God to act, you are positioning yourself to receive, to grow, and to walk in the fullness of his plan for your life. Do not underestimate the power of your confident prayers. They have the ability to change your family, your community, your career, your finances, and your future. They have the ability to break chains, heal wounds, restore relationships, and unlock potential. They have the ability to bring peace in chaos, hope in despair, and light in darkness. Confident prayer carries authority. Confident prayer commands attention. Confident prayer moves heaven. Fear-based prayer never accomplishes what confident prayer can achieve. Fear-based prayer whispers, but faith-filled prayer shouts. Fear-based prayer hesitates, but confidence charges forward. Fear-based prayer doubts, but faith-filled prayer believes and expects. When you pray with confidence, you are declaring to the universe that your God is greater than every problem, every difficulty, every limitation. You are declaring that your faith is stronger than your fear. You are declaring that your trust in God is unshakable. You are declaring that your prayers are powerful, your words carry authority, and your expectations are aligned with heaven. Confidence in prayer is the gateway to miracles. Confidence in prayer is the pathway to breakthroughs. Confidence in prayer is the bridge between your current reality and God's promises. Do not pray as if God might not hear you. Do not pray as if your faith is not enough. Do not pray as if your confidence is small. Speak with boldness, declare with authority, and trust with certainty. God listens to confidence. God responds to faith. God honors trust. Fear may try to hold you back, but faith will propel you forward. Doubt may attempt to silence you, but confidence will lift your voice. Hesitation may tempt you to settle, but bold prayer will move heaven. Choose to pray with faith. Choose to pray with expectation. Choose to pray with confidence. And watch how God moves on your behalf in ways beyond imagination. When you pray with confidence, you step into a realm where God's power is unlimited, where his wisdom guides every move, and where his love covers every need. Confidence in prayer is not about the absence of problems. It is about the presence of trust. It is not about having control over circumstances. It is about recognizing the one as a control and yielding to his authority. Every time you pray boldly, you align yourself with heaven. Every time you speak with faith, you invite the miraculous into your life. And every time you declare with confidence, you position yourself to experience breakthroughs that the timid, fearful, and doubtful will never see. Many approach prayer with fear because they have not understood the nature of God. They approach with hesitation because they have not realized their own authority as his children. They approach with doubt because they not fully grasp the power of faith. But listen to me today, God is not moved by uncertainty. God is not influenced by hesitation. God is not impressed by fear. God is moved by bold faith, unwavering trust, and confident expectation. He responds to those who know their voice matters in his kingdom. He answers those who approach him not as strangers, but as beloved children. Fear will always focus on what is visible. Faith always focuses on what is invisible but certain. Fear looks at the storm and shivers. Faith looks at the God who controls the storm and stands unshaken. Fear sees obstacles. Faith sees opportunity. Fear whispers, it is too late. Faith declares, it is not too late for God. Fear questions, can this really happen? Faith affirms nothing is impossible with God. When you pray with confidence, your eyes are on the one who can, rather than the problem that cannot. Your words are anchored in trust, your heart is anchored in hope, and your life is anchored in God's promises. Confidence-filled prayer does not negotiate with doubt. It does not bargain with uncertainty. It does not apologize for boldness. Confident prayer declares the reality of heaven in the face of earth's limitations. It speaks to the impossible and says, it will happen because God is faithful. It calls to the unseen and says, I believe even though I do not yet see. It looks at circumstances and says, you are limited, I am unlimited because God is with me. Fear-based prayer prays for survival. Faith-based prayer prays for victory. Fear-based prayer asks for help. Faith-based prayer commands intervention. Fear-based prayer whispers. Faith-based prayer shouts. Your confidence in prayer is your declaration that God is bigger than your fear, stronger than your challenges, and greater than your limitations. Every confident prayer carries authority. Every faith-filled request invites the power of heaven to move. Every bold declaration aligns your life with God's will. And when you pray with confidence, you are not merely asking for change. You are stepping into the process by which God transforms everything around you. You are not simply hoping for miracles. You are positioning yourself to be a part of God's miracle working plan. Fear-based prayer keeps you small. It limits your vision, restricts your potential, and confines your destiny. But confident, faith-filled prayer expands your horizons, unlocks your potential, and opens the door to the destiny God has prepared for you. When you pray with faith, you are stepping into a place where nothing is impossible, where barriers are removed, and where divine favor flows freely. Confidence in prayer allows you to speak boldly into situations that appear hopeless and to declare God's power over circumstances that seem overwhelming. Confidence in prayer allows you to believe that your future is secure because it is held in the hands of an unchanging God. Boldness in prayer is not a suggestion, it is a necessity. You must pray with boldness because timid prayers accomplish little. You must pray with boldness because fear-based prayers are constrained by doubt and limitation. You must pray with boldness because your confidence releases power that hesitation cannot. Bold prayer does not question God's ability. It proclaims his power. Bold prayer does not doubt his timing. It trusts his plan. Bold prayer does not rely on circumstance. It relies on the character of God. And bold prayer is the language of faith, the language that moves heaven, transforms earth, and changes your life. Do not allow fear to dictate the tone of your prayers. Do not allow hesitation to shape your words. Do not allow doubt to limit your expectation. When you pray, pray as one who knows God is listening. Pray as one who knows that your voice matters. Pray as one who knows that the one who holds the universe in his hands also holds your life. Speak to God boldly, knowing that his power is greater than every obstacle you face. Speak with confidence, knowing that his wisdom is greater than every problem you cannot solve. Speak with faith, knowing that his love is greater than every loss you have experienced. When you pray with confidence, you begin to live differently. You begin to think differently. You begin to act differently. Faith-filled prayer changes perspective. It transforms your mindset. It strengthens your courage. It empowers your decisions. Confident prayer does not just request blessings. It prepares you to receive them, to steward them, and to walk in them. Confident prayer builds character, develops resilience, and nurtures a spirit that refuses to be defeated. Your prayers shape your destiny, but your faith shapes your life. And when your life aligns with God's will, miracles flow naturally. Prayer with confidence also requires persistence. Do not pray once and give up. Do not declare boldly and then retreat in fear. Confident prayer demands consistency, endurance, and unwavering belief. The enemy will try to discourage you. Obstacles will try to intimidate you. Circumstances will attempt to convince you that your prayers are in vain. But stand firm. Continue to pray. Continue to declare. Continue to expect. Each persistent prayer is a seed that grows into a harvest. Each consistent declaration is a key that unlocks doors. Each unwavering belief is a signal to heaven that you are serious about receiving what God has promised. Faith-filled prayer is a conversation with the Almighty, not a negotiation. Confidence is not arrogance. It is trust. Boldness is not presumption. It is expectation. When you pray with confidence, you are not demanding that God act according to your will. You are aligning yourself with his will and trusting his power to accomplish it. You are acknowledging that his understanding is greater than yours, his timing is perfect, and his ability is unlimited. Confidence-filled prayer is a recognition of God's authority, a celebration of his power and declaration of your trust. When you pray with fear, you pray small prayers. You pray for minor things. You settle for less. And you limit the scope of what God can do in your life. When you pray with faith, you pray boldly, you expect miracles, and you open yourself to the extraordinary. Confidence in prayer transforms ordinary lives into testimonies of God's greatness. It changes the course of destiny. It breaks cycles of defeat. It restores hope. It multiplies resources. It releases provision. It brings healing, restoration, and breakthrough. Fear cannot accomplish these things, but faith can. Confidence cannot be intimidated, but fear can be silenced. The God who listens to confident prayer is not moved by weakness. He is moved by boldness. He is not swayed by hesitation. He is swayed by expectation. He is not influenced by doubt. He is influenced by trust. When you pray with faith, you step into a partnership with God where heaven's power is unleashed in your life. When you speak with confidence, you invite divine intervention into your circumstances. When you declare with boldness, you align yourself with God's plan and position yourself to receive his miraculous provision. Confidence in prayer does not depend on your strength. It depends on God's. It does not depend on your wisdom. It depends on his. It does not depend on your timing. It depends on his perfect plan. Fear says it is impossible. Faith says with God, all things are possible. Fear focuses on what can go wrong. Faith focuses on what God can do right. Fear trembles at obstacles. Faith marches toward breakthroughs. Fear shrinks your vision. Faith expands your horizon. Fear whispers lies. Faith declares truth. Fear hesitates. Fear doubts. Faith expects. Fear limits. Faith liberates. You must choose to pray with faith, not fear. You must choose to pray with confidence, not hesitation. You must choose to speak boldly, not timidly, because God listens to the voice that trusts, believes, and expects. Your prayers have power. Your faith has power. Your confidence has power. The moment you choose faith over fear, boldness over hesitation, and trust over doubt, you unlock the potential of your life. You step into the supernatural. You align with heaven. You position yourself to experience miracles. You declare that nothing is too hard, no problem too complex, no situation too impossible for the God who listens to confident prayer. Confidence in prayer transforms ordinary people into witnesses of God's extraordinary power. It transforms challenges into triumphs, setbacks into comebacks, and impossibilities into testimonies. When you pray with confidence, you tap into a source of power that fear cannot access. You step into a realm where limitations dissolve, where doors swing open that were previously locked, and where your life begins to change in ways that defy explanation. Confidence in prayer is not about knowing all the answers. It is about trusting the one who does. It is not about having control over circumstances. It is about yielding to the one who controls everything. Every confident prayer is a declaration that your God is bigger than your problem, stronger than your fear, and greater than any obstacle that stands in your way. Fear will tell you to be quiet, to pray carefully, to ask timidly. But faith calls you to speak boldly, to declare your need without hesitation, and to trust without questioning. Fear measures what is possible according to the circumstances you see. Faith measures what is possible according to the power of God. Fear whispers, perhaps God won't hear you. Faith declares, God is listening and he will act. Fear holds back the fullness of your potential. Faith releases every gift, every opportunity, and every promise God has placed in your life. When you pray with confidence, you step into the reality that nothing is too hard, too late, or too impossible for the God who listens. Confidence in prayer also strengthens your identity. When you pray boldly, you declare who you are in God. You acknowledge that you are his child, that your voice matters, and that your requests are important to him. You recognize that you are not powerless, that you have authority, and that you are called to partner with God in bringing his will to earth. Fear-based prayer diminishes your identity. It makes you timid, uncertain, and unsure of your place in God's kingdom. Confident prayer, on the other hand, affirms your value, reinforces your authority, and empowers you to stand boldly in the promises of God. Faith-filled, confident prayer transforms ordinary moments into divine encounters. It changes conversations, relationships, and decisions. It brings clarity where there is confusion, provision where there is lack, and peace where there is chaos. Every time you pray boldly, you invite the supernatural to touch the natural. Every time you speak with confidence, you activate heaven's response to earth's challenges. Every time you declare with unwavering trust, you demonstrate that your faith is stronger than your fear and your confidence is greater than your doubt. When you pray this way, you are not simply participating in a ritual. You are stepping into the flow of God's miraculous power. Do not underestimate the significance of praying with confidence. The words you speak with bold faith have the power to change your circumstances. They have the power to heal brokenness, restore relationships, and bring provision. They have the power to open doors, release favor, and create opportunities. Fear-based prayers often go unheard because they are weak, hesitant, and uncertain. Confidence-filled prayers pierce the heavens because they are bold, assured, and unwavering. Every confident declaration reaches the ear of God. Every faith-filled expectation triggers his response. Every bold prayer sets into motion the movement of divine power in your life. Confidence in prayer is also about expectation. When you pray, pray with the certainty that God will act. Do not pray with hope alone. Do not pray with tentative requests. Pray with full expectation. Pray as one who knows that God is faithful. Pray as one who understands that his timing is perfect. Pray as one who is convinced that nothing is impossible for him. Confidence in prayer is not simply wishing, it is expecting. It is not simply asking, it is believing. It is not simply speaking words, it is declaring reality based on the promises of God. When you pray with confidence, you begin to see doors open that were once closed. You begin to experience favor in areas where it seemed impossible. You begin to walk in opportunities that were previously out of reach. Every prayer that is spoken with faith is a key to unlock heaven's resources. Every word spoken with expectation is a lever to move mountains. Every declaration spoken with boldness sets into motion a sequence of divine intervention that transforms your life. Confidence in prayer is not theoretical, it is practical. It is not passive, it is active. It is not dependent on circumstances. It is dependent on the power of God. Fear-based prayer focuses on limitations, but faith-based prayer focuses on possibilities. Fear measures the problem. Faith measures the power of God. Fear sees difficulty. Faith sees the miracle. Fear anticipates failure. Faith expects victory. Fear whispers doubt. Faith declares truth. Fear asks cautiously. Faith commands boldly. Fear prays for survival. Faith prays for triumph. Fear is timid. Faith is fearless. Fear shrinks. Faith expands. Fear hesitates. Faith acts. Fear limits. Faith liberates. Fear prays quietly. Faith prays confidently. And the prayers that God responds to are those that are filled with unwavering trust, bold expectation, and unshakable faith. Confidence-filled prayer also requires understanding God's promises. Every word he has spoken is reliable. Every plan he has for your life is unshakable. Every promise he has made is alive, relevant, and applicable to you today. When you pray with confidence, you pray in alignment with his word. You pray in harmony with his will. You pray knowing that what he has said will come to pass. Fear-based prayer doubts the promises. Faith-based prayer declares them. Fear whispers uncertainty. Faith affirms certainty. Fear trembles at obstacles. Faith stands unshaken because it knows that God is greater than every difficulty. Bold prayer requires persistence. Do not pray once and walk away. Do not pray for a moment and give up. Confidence in prayer is demonstrated by perseverance. When you continue to pray, to declare, and to believe, you are telling God that you trust him to act. You are telling heaven that you expect a response. You are showing the enemy that your faith is unshakable. Each persistent prayer is a seed planted in the soil of heaven. Each bold declaration is a key to unlock doors. Each unwavering expectation activates God's power in your life. Confidence-filled prayer transforms your mindset. It shapes your thoughts, directs your decisions, and determines your actions. When you pray boldly, you begin to think boldly. When you pray with expectation, you begin to act with confidence. When you pray with faith, you begin to live with courage. Prayer is not only about speaking to God, it is about allowing God to speak through you, to direct your path, and to empower your actions. Confidence in prayer aligns your heart, your mind, and your life with the will of God. It positions you to experience his blessings, to fulfill his purpose, and to walk in his favor. When you approach God with fear, you are limited by what you see and what you know. When you approach God with faith, you are lifted into a realm where nothing is impossible, where barriers are broken, and where the miraculous becomes reality. Fear-based prayers are small because they are rooted in uncertainty. Faith-based prayers are limitless because they are rooted in trust. Fear-based prayers settle for less than God has promised. Faith-filled prayers reach for the fullness of his plan. Fear asks cautiously, faith declares boldly. Fear doubts, faith expects. Fear whispers, faith commands. Confidence in prayer is the language of the child of God who knows his Father is faithful. When you pray with confidence, you are stepping into the authority that God has given you. You are speaking not as one who is powerless, but as one who carries divine authority. You are declaring not as one who is uncertain, but as one who is secure in God's promises. You are asking not as one who is desperate, but as one who trusts in the unwavering character of the Almighty. Confident prayer carries weight. Confident prayer carries heaven. Confident prayer transforms your world. Fear-based prayer cannot produce these results because it is hesitant, uncertain, and timid. Faith-filled, confident prayer achieves everything God intended for your life and more. Do not settle for fear-filled, hesitant prayer. Do not pray with uncertainty or doubt. Choose faith. Choose confidence. Choose boldness. Speak to God with a voice that declares your trust, affirms your expectation, and proclaims your belief. Let your prayers rise with authority. Let your faith speak louder than your fear. Let your confidence activate the power of heaven. Pray not with trembling hesitation, but with unwavering assurance. Pray not with timid requests, but with bold declarations. Pray not with doubt, but with faith. God listens to confidence. God responds to faith. God honors trust. God moves on the prayers of those who dare to believe, who dare to declare, and who dare to stand boldly in his promises. When you pray with confidence, you are declaring that your God is bigger than your fear, stronger than your obstacles, and more faithful than your doubts. You are taking a stand in the realm of the Spirit, saying, I will not be intimidated. I will not be discouraged. I will not be shaken. I trust the one who holds the universe in his hands, and I know he is listening to me. Confidence-filled prayer is not about arrogance. It is about assurance. It is not about presumption. It is about expectation. It is not about your ability. It is about God's power operating through you. Every confident prayer you lift is a declaration that fear will not dictate the outcome, that doubt will not determine your destiny, and that hesitation will not hinder your breakthrough. Many people pray with fear because they focus on what they see. They see the problem, the challenge, the difficulty, and the impossible. But God is not limited by what you see. God is not constrained by circumstances. God is not bound by impossibility. When you pray with faith, you lift your eyes beyond the problem to the one who is greater than the problem. You look past the storm to the one who controls the storm. You rise above limitation because your confidence rests in God's unlimited power, not in your own strength. When you pray boldly with unwavering faith, you begin to see things move in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. Confidence-filled prayer is anchored in the promises of God. Every word in his word is alive, relevant, and applicable to your life today. Every promise carries power. Every covenant carries authority. When you pray with confidence, you are not praying hypothetically. You are praying in alignment with heaven. You are speaking the language of faith, declaring the reality of God's promises over your life. Fear-based prayers doubt, hesitate, and settle for less. Faith-based prayers declare, persist, and expect the fullness of what God has already promised. When you pray with confidence, you are not hoping for change, you are expecting transformation. Bold prayers do not shy away from difficulty. Confident prayers do not retreat from challenges. Faith-filled prayers do not shrink in the face of impossibility. When you approach God with confidence, you declare that your circumstances do not define you. You declare that your situation does not control you. You declare that your God is greater than anything you face. Each confident prayer is a battle cry against limitation. Each faith-filled declaration is a trumpet announcing that God's power is about to move. Each bold expectation is a signal to heaven that you are ready for breakthrough, restoration, and victory. Confidence in prayer transforms the way you live. It changes the way you think. It changes the way you speak. It changes the way you act. When you pray boldly, your words carry authority. When you pray with expectation, your actions reflect faith. When you pray with persistence, your life demonstrates endurance. Confident prayer does not just ask for change, it positions you to experience God's transformation in every area of your life. Fear-based prayer limits you to what you can see and understand. Faith-filled prayer lifts you into a realm of unlimited possibilities where God's power flows freely, His wisdom guides every step, and His favor surrounds your life. Every time you pray with confidence, you are training yourself to see with the eyes of faith. You are learning to trust beyond your understanding. You are learning to rely not on your own strength, but on the omnipotence of God. Confident prayer teaches you to speak with authority, act with courage, and expect results that defy human reasoning. Fear-based prayer whispers, "Well, I hope it works." Faith-filled prayer declares, "It will work because my God is faithful." Fear prays cautiously, faith prays boldly. Fear doubts, faith expects. Fear shrinks, faith expands. Fear whispers lies, faith proclaims. Confidence in prayer is the language of a life anchored in God, and it changes everything. Praying with confidence requires boldness, persistence, and unwavering trust. You cannot approach God timidly and expect bold results. You cannot whisper and expect mountains to move. You cannot doubt and expect miracles. Bold prayer demands that you speak with authority, declare with conviction, and trust with certainty. Every time you lift your voice in confident prayer, you are activating the power of heaven to intervene in your life. Every time you declare your faith, you are positioning yourself to receive God's provision. Every time you persist, you are demonstrating that your belief is greater than your fear. Confidence-filled prayer also reshapes your perspective on life. It teaches you to see challenges as opportunities. It teaches you to see obstacles as stepping stones. It teaches you to see setbacks as setups for your breakthrough. When you pray boldly, you begin to live boldly. When you pray with expectation, you begin to act with expectation. When you pray with faith, you begin to live with faith. Prayer is not just about asking God to intervene. It is about aligning your life with His will so that His power can flow through you. Confidence in prayer is the bridge between the impossible and the miraculous, between limitation and abundance, between despair and victory. Fear-based prayer settles for survival. Faith-filled prayer seeks triumph. Fear-based prayer whispers. Faith-filled prayer shouts. Fear-based prayer hesitates. Faith-filled prayer commands. Fear-based prayer doubts. Faith-filled prayer expects. Fear-based prayer limits. Faith-filled prayer liberates. Fear-based prayer shrinks. Faith-filled prayer expands. Fear-based prayer prays quietly. Faith-filled prayer prays boldly. Confidence in prayer is not optional. It is essential for those who want to live a life that reflects God's power, purpose, and promises. Praying with confidence also deepens your relationship with God. When you approach Him boldly, you demonstrate trust. When you pray persistently, you demonstrate belief. When you declare His promises, you demonstrate alignment with His will. Confidence-filled prayer is not just about receiving, it is about connecting with the heart of God. It is about acknowledging His authority, relying on His wisdom, and trusting His timing. Every confident prayer strengthens your faith, fortifies your spirit, and builds a life that is unshakable in the face of any challenge. Faith-filled, confident prayer transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary testimonies. It restores what is broken, multiplies what is lacking, heals what is wounded, and provides what is needed. Fear-based prayers achieve little because they are hesitant, uncertain, and timid. Bold, confident prayers accomplish everything God intended for your life and more. When you pray with confidence, you step into the authority God has given you. You speak not as one who is powerless, but as one who carries divine authority. You declare not as one who is unsure, but as one who is secure in God's promises. You expect not as one who is uncertain, but as one who is convinced of God's faithfulness. When you pray with confidence, you are saying to God and to the world, I will not be intimidated. I will not be silenced. I will not settle for less than your promises. I trust you to act on my behalf. Your words carry weight. Your faith carries authority. Your confidence carries power. Fear cannot produce this. Doubt cannot produce this. Hesitation cannot produce this. But bold, confident, faith-filled prayer moves heaven, transforms your circumstances, and changes your life. Confidence-filled prayer is not dependent on circumstances. It is dependent on the character of God. It is not dictated by what you see or understand. It is anchored in the promises, power, and faithfulness of the Almighty. Every confident prayer is a declaration that your life is not limited by obstacles. Every bold expectation is a statement that God's power is greater than every problem. Every unwavering declaration is a signal that you are standing on the promises of God, refusing to be moved by fear and trusting in His perfect plan. When you pray boldly, you unlock the potential within yourself and around you. You release blessings that were previously blocked. You activate opportunities that were previously hidden. You step into your destiny with authority, knowing that God has already heard your prayers and is already acting on your behalf. Fear may attempt to slow you down, but faith propels you forward. Hesitation may try to hold you back, but confidence pushes you onward. Doubt may try to silence your voice, but faith gives you courage to speak boldly. Your confident prayers are more than words. They are declarations that move heaven, impact earth, and change lives. Today, I want you to understand this with all your heart. God listens to confidence, not fear. He responds to faith, not hesitation. Every prayer you lift with boldness carries authority. Every word spoken with unwavering trust activates heaven's power. Do not shrink back. Do not whisper timidly. Do not doubt. Step into your prayers with the certainty that God is listening, that His promises are unshakable, and that His power is unlimited. Pray boldly, expect greatly, and believe without hesitation. Fear will try to silence you, but faith will make you unstoppable. Hesitation will attempt to hold you back, but confidence will propel you forward. Remember this, your breakthrough begins when you pray with faith. Your destiny is unlocked when you pray with boldness. And your miracles are released when you pray with confidence. Choose today to pray not with fear, but with faith. Choose today to speak with authority, declare with boldness and trust without wavering. Step into the fullness of God's power and watch the impossible become your reality.